On today's episode of WatchJRGo, we are back in my new house, and I know I just made a video called Trying to Prevent My House from Flooding. Well, it flooded. What is going on, guys? I am WatchJRGo, and today, like I said, we are back in my new house and my new shop. And I know the first question in every comment section right now is, where are the spray foam guys? And I keep, reiterating that they keep putting me off and keep putting me off and keep putting me off. And it was supposed to be like 2 weeks ago, and then it was supposed to be this next week, and then this week it was we're in the hospital, and now he's supposed to be here tomorrow morning. Let's see if it happens. So we've covered the spray foam. That is why I can't work on cars and I don't have a shop. So it just keeps coming up. I won't have a shop until we have a shop ready to go, which means lights, and that means lifts. So it's coming soon. Anyway, my house flooded. So let's talk about this. Yesterday, here in Kansas, the city that this house is in had the biggest, the most historic flooding. I think they said it's the worst it had ever been since 2016. The most rain in one day since 2016, and maybe the most rain in one day ever where we're standing. And I paid for it. Not even at both of my houses, guys. And my other house is nice and way newer. But we're gonna get to that. I'll cover what happened over there, even though we're not gonna go over there. So anyway, what happened was, so much water came through here, and we've always known there's been some issues with this house, but you can see where all this concrete had fallen down and all settled out. And then they came back in and tried to fill the concrete with this big patch. So this separated a ton, and then they poured more concrete on top of it trying to solve it. Well, what this created, of course, is a funnel for the water. That's just, you just rip out the concrete and redo it. You don't try to patch it like this. The only thing you can patch it with is seam sealer or concrete sealer. They didn't want to do that. They tried to level off a new patch on here, and you guys can see that all the concrete is settled. Especially here's an obvious bit of it. Right here. There, you can see the concrete should have been right here, and that's where the rebar's pinned into it, and it's down maybe 4 inches. So we've known from day one there were issues with this concrete, and that is no big deal. We'll just go get the skid steer. We're actually gonna go grab Weston's skid steer, and he's got a dump truck too, and we're gonna pull out all the concrete, throw it in the dump truck, and then haul it off to be destroyed. There's a concrete plant that's really close by. Hopefully they'll take it all. I talked to my asphalt guys, got a place where we can dump concrete, so we're good on that front. But we haven't done that yet, of course, because we're standing on all of this terrible old concrete. And we know that this has created more issues with the house, and it's caused the house to settle. And you can see that the house is settled right here. Now, it's not bad, there's not too many cracks on this house, but that one there is the one. That's the most important one. Not only that one, there's one more right here you guys can check out. You can see the foundation crack right there. So basically this corner of the house settled over time, and that was probably exacerbated by this terrible concrete because it funnels water right into the ground, and it became a flood in my basement. So let's head downstairs and check that out. All right, guys, this is one of the downstairs bedrooms, and luckily this was on the to-do list. We were gonna rip all this sheetrock down because it was terrible. Not to mention all the writing on the ceiling. This is all, it might paint over, and maybe I'll actually leave the ceiling and paint over it, but we have to get all the paneling off the wall. We gotta fix the windows. There's a lot of stuff that needs fixed in this room. It's also, there's no light, every room here, there's no light. So I gotta put lights in the ceiling where they belong. Anyway, in this room is where you can see, this is that crack upstairs, or at least one of them. And you can see that crack runs all the way up and down. And then yesterday, it was damp up to here. And there, you can still tell, there's still water all over the floor. Water was basically running into this room. I mean, it was historic flooding. I gotta say, it's rained plenty here before, and we had no issues with this. But this rain was crazy, 24 hours nonstop. And it really did create some issues. And one of the issues, of course, were these windows. Now this window here has been hacked back together many times, and then they just put plate in there, and you can see all these T-brackets and stuff holding those windows together. And also the wells for these windows outside are also terrible. They're falling away from the house. So a lot of little foundation issues that I knew about from day one, and I knew we were gonna have to fix. Again, in the other room, let's go check that out. So this room didn't have standing water, but it was damp all the way around. You can actually see the line all the way over to this window. And I was in here during the mega rain, and I could see the water glistening right under the window here. So I do know that's plexiglass inside of glass. I was trying to kill the bug. All right, that's not gonna happen. But all the water in this room came through that window. So we knew kind of from day one the windows would need to be replaced. And not only did they need to be replaced, they need to be egress windows so that the square footage counts and it's safe in the event of a fire, right? So these have definitely been bedrooms for years. Most of us grew up in basement rooms with no windows, I would say, but now everybody wants egress windows in their basement rooms just for safety reasons. I get it. There's nothing worse than a fire outside your room and you can't go anywhere. We're gonna put egress windows in and solve the problem in this house. So that is most of the actual problem areas. Now the problem areas are pretty, that crack behind us is actually pretty big, and it caused water to come all the way in here to where I was standing. And then over here, another issue is our flue. There was water just dripping. It wasn't continuous, but like a drip out of this thing that just kept going and kept going, kept going. So there's probably no cap on the flue on the roof or something like that. I don't know, it would have to have a cap because it was just a drip, but that caused a huge puddle right here. And earlier today, I'd say that puddle went from over here all the way to the wall. We're talking like a 10-foot diameter puddle. It was massive. And you know, earlier today, I got the shop vac out and I cleaned all this up. I vacuumed all the water off the floor, filled the shop vac up 3 times, the little cordless one. So what's that, like 4 gallons each. So it wasn't crazy, not a ton of water, but there was a lot of water. And I couldn't really work in here if I still had all that water to stand in. So the basement flooded, and it wasn't because of me and it wasn't because of the water system. Let's take a look at that. Water system holding up great. As you guys can see, no issues there. We didn't even see any water coming in here or here, which I kind of thought this was gonna leak. I figured this all needed to be repacked outside, but none of that leaked. No problems there. The outside of the house does bring quite a bit of water into the sump pump, so the sump pump was running every minute all day long. It was putting in some work, but it kept up just fine, never broke. The basement didn't flood because of any sump pump issues or anything like that. And water sensors, we're gonna solve that problem, or at least we'll know about it. We're not gonna solve it. And later on down the road, I'll do a dual sump pump with battery backup. It's what I use in my other house. You know, we have power outages once in a while, and there's nothing worse than a power outage when you depend on a sump pump. You get in trouble real quick. So we'll add a water sensor to the sump pump pit eventually. So if it ever does get too high, I'll know about it. That will be good. All right, that is most of our flood here. Let's go talk about how we're gonna fix it. There was so much water over here in this corner. Look, this is after vacuuming. This is what flowed back down into the low spot. Still water. I even did a good job cleaning that up. There was a lot of water, I have to say. Last night, it was looking like a river. But today, everything's okay, and you know, a lot of the sheetrock, none of it really got damaged, and a lot of it's coming out of the basement anyway, because they textured it, and can't have texture on that sheetrock. It looks bad. So, the next issue on this house is right here. You guys can see up here, if you're flush with this wall, the bricks turn out. And the easiest way to see the brick turn out is right there where the reveal of the brick on the brick ledge. It's like 1 inch. And then over here, I'm about to fall off the brick ledge. So obviously that is quite the problem. And there's a visible crack right above that. Yeah. Big old crack in this thing where you can see that the front of the house has settled down, which tells us that the whole front porch has settled off the house. So how are we gonna fix that? Well, I already had foundation repair on the schedule for this house, and my parents have had it done. You know, a lot of houses in Kansas do get foundation repair because they all have basements, so we end up with a lot of things like separation, cracking on your foundation, and it's got to be repaired at some point. And it's time for this house to be repaired. So like I said, like 3 days before the rain, I had scheduled them to come out and quote fixing this place. And we actually only got 1 quote on this. These guys are the professionals, probably I'd say the best in the Wichita area, at least I hope so. I know my parents use the same guys and they're holding up, and I've talked to a lot of other people that have used them too. It's supposed to be the gold standard of foundation repair. So they came out today and they quoted this house, and we know what the repair is gonna cost, and we paid the deposit, and they're coming in 4 weeks. And I say all that with a very pained face because I know what it costs. And I'm gonna tell you guys what it's gonna cost here in a minute, and then hopefully I'm gonna show you all of the process when they get here. So what they're gonna do is lift the house back up. Everybody knows how foundation repair works. You jack the foundation back up and you solve the problem. Well, how they're gonna do this one is actually in the basement. They're not gonna worry about this concrete here. They're gonna go in the basement and cut themselves out a 24 by 24 inch square, 2 foot by 2 foot. And then they're gonna dig underneath the foundation from inside the house, which is kind of interesting. I'm really glad those rooms aren't finished. And then they drive in this system of like steel piers all the way down to the bedrock. We're talking, I mean, it can be like 30, 40 foot deep under the house. And they put steel all the way down to the bedrock, and then they find the water table, and then they're gonna put a transition piece on top of that dirt right there, and then they're gonna put concrete cylinders, cast concrete cylinders, 8,000 PSI, down this cable system and run them all the way down until they won't go, they put it in until the point of rejection, which means that, you know, nothing will go deeper into the ground. And then they stack these things up all the way until they're right under the foundation, and then they put a hydraulic jack on it and they lift the house back up. And they're putting one here, and one here, and one here, and one here, and one around the corner. They are putting a bunch of piers over here, and this side will be completely fixed, you know? It'll be, it's funny, the next side of the house will fall down. You guys know, it's how houses work. Now that this side will be completely rigid with nowhere to go, the other side will probably go down. But you know what? It'll probably be just fine. The next issues will probably be 50 years down the road, at least I hope. And then out front, they're gonna put a pier here after they rip the sidewalk out. This sidewalk was going away anyway. We were gonna re-pour it as part of the new driveway that's gonna wrap out with the third door on the garage. So a pier here, a pier here. You guys, this is still, like, I sink here still. There's so much water coming through right here, and that's probably what caused this issue with the porch sinking. But you can see on video, this porch like angles away from the house. And it hasn't dropped away from the house because they probably pinned it well, but out here on the end, it's definitely sunk. So a pier here, and then a pier every 6 foot, all the way down this sidewalk until it's all ready to go. So that is our game plan to fix this house. And you guys can just guess in the comments how expensive that's gonna be. All right, I'll tell you. Their quote was $31,000 or something like that. It's crazy. But that also covers one more important part of this process. Let's head around back and talk about that. It's how we're gonna stop the water from coming back in. So once all this concrete is out of the way and they get those piers done inside the house, there's one more step to do to solve the problem with those 2 tall cracks down in the basement that start up here by this door and run basically all the way down. And you know, that's just something that happens when the whole side of the house starts settling down. You gotta fix it, and then you gotta seal it. So they've got a couple options for that. They can inject like a resin into the crack. They said don't do that from the inside. They were like, that's a temporary fix. You really don't wanna do that. So what they wanted to do was build like a false wall. I don't even understand all of this, but they wanted to build a wall off the concrete wall, put a gutter system in with all kinds of like screening that protects it from ever getting silt and stuff in it. And then they were gonna run all of this gutter into like a half-horse sump pump and put another pit in the basement and make that pump out. And I was like, guys, I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna lose any room inside the house. And I really don't think we need to go that far because it doesn't leak very quickly. And they're like, well, there's another option, and it's the option that I like the most. What they do is once all this concrete is pulled away from the house, they have like basically a wand, like a pressure washer wand with a bunch of holes in it, and they're gonna ram it in the dirt right up against the foundation all the way down and inject grout, I think curtain grout, all the way down right here, basically all the affected areas. They're gonna solve all of that permanently by re-grouting the outside of the concrete. So that should give us another watertight membrane, and that also sounds like a great option that will last basically forever. So there you have it, my house flooded, and that's how we're gonna fix it, and it's coming in about a month. They said they were 4 weeks out on jobs, and we signed the deal today, and they're gonna call shortly to do some scheduling, and we'll get to see this process. It's gonna get cold by then. I hope they realize it won't be the most fun working conditions, but I guess they get to work in the house for about half of it. Anyway, historic rains, house flooded. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't catastrophic. It wasn't a water line broke and filled the basement up, but it also wasn't a great time vacuuming all that water back out of the basement and, you know, just dealing with it in general. I'm glad I had all this lined up. We'll get it fixed. What else can you do? That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop WatchJRGo.com for cool shirts just like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. Luckily, I got the speakers done just in time for the historic rains. I don't know what it has to do with anything, but I did get them hung. The sound episode is coming soon. I am actually really excited about it. It'll be nice when I'm working outside, making dumpster runs, whatever we're doing, to have sound outside. So I'm excited about it either way. And I mean, they held up great through the storm and should be good to go as soon as we get some power to them. Basically, the same thing happened over here. Here's my network twin, as you guys can see. This whole house is a million times nicer. Square D panel and everything's nice over here, but my 10 gig switch sits over here. It goes from the laptop to the NAS, and you can see water was coming through this half slider window. The water was up to here on the glass. It filled up the wells outside so fast, and it was just barely coming in, but just rolling over the top of the plywood. And I luckily got down here just in time to rip the 10 gig switch off the wall, and it's doing just fine. Shout out to this house. There's the old sump pump I was talking about. That's been out here for like 10 years. I should have thrown it away, but then I should have taken it outside and put it in the window well and used it to pump it out. I just didn't have any PVC to pipe it anywhere. But luckily all that water came down the wall and went right into the sump pump and right back outside. So it was okay. It was totally okay, and it wasn't enough water to hurt anything over here. And luckily this is just the fiber demarc. There's nothing in there but a straight connection. So I didn't need to worry about that getting wet. I only worried about these, and the water it stopped right there.